As we observe International Human Rights Day, we also celebrate the 70th year since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We've been at the forefront in the fight for equity for all the peoples of the world. Jamaica was the first country to declare an embargo on apartheid South Africa. We were also the country to propose that the United Nations observe 1968 as the year of International Human Rights. We've ratified the major human rights conventions, covenants, and treaties. We've established institutions such as INDICOM, the Office of the Public Defender, and the Office of the Children's Advocate. And recently, we've completed a cabinet submission to set up the National Human Rights Institute. Let us continue to live up to our national pledge to advance the welfare of the whole human race. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and this is Jamaica Magazine.
We're taking justice to the people of Jamaica.
Jamaica advances the new face of justice with the opening of the expanded Court of Appeal downtown Kingston on Wednesday, December 12, 2018.
This is the final phases of the new Court of Appeal building, because at the moment we are giving Jamaica a first-class justice system that it deserves. This is the new face of justice, a new experience for the people of Jamaica.
One justice.
Let's work together.
A message from the Ministry of Justice.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, December 10. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has ordered a forensic audit of Petrojam and new oversight regulations in the interim to ensure accountability. Mr. Holness announced the directives at a press conference on Monday, called to address the findings and recommendations contained in a report from the Auditor General. It highlighted, among other things, breaches in procurement guidelines, inconsistent recruitment and employment practices, and unaccounted-for barrels of oil worth billions. In announcing the forensic audit to shed more light on the oil losses, Prime Minister Holness also ordered new regulations for board meetings to ensure transparency in Petrojam's oil pricing mechanisms.
Two things. One is to ensure that the minutes of the meeting are taken and sent to independent oversight bodies, and to include other persons. I'm thinking, for example, the Consumer Affairs Commission, a representative from the Ministry of Finance. But I will give further details as to how that can be done. And that will help to bring some level of clarity.
The Prime Minister also informed that he would be meeting with the Auditor General to discuss further aspects of the report. 91 firearms and over 1,800 rounds of ammunition have been recovered since the January start of the state of emergency declared in St. James. That's according to Senior Superintendent of Police Anthony Morris, who says that of the 4,264 persons detained under the state of emergency, only 24 remain in detention. Of that number, 6 were in a holding area and 18 in cells. Senior Superintendent Morris says that of the 18 in cells, 3 have been charged with serious crimes, while 15 have been remanded with approved detention orders. The senior superintendent tells JIS News that of the over 4,000 persons detained, 147 have been charged with various crimes and 64 having outstanding warrants.
We have no children detained under the state of emergency. We in fact have 2 children charged, one for murder, one for robbery with aggravation, and they are at our juvenile facility. The parish of St. James has really been breathing a sigh of relief. We have saved some 230 murders since the start of the year when you compare to last year. And in any language, that is a major gain for the citizens.
Superintendent Morris gave those details during Prime Minister Andrew Holness's 3-leg tour of detention facilities under the states of emergency and zones of special operations on the weekend.
So far, we have seen facilities that are, I would say, generally up to standard, but clearly we could and should do more to improve the standard. So the objective of my visit is to see what else we could do to improve conditions. I must commend the police and the military so far for the way in which they have used the extraordinary and special powers that they have been given under the state of emergency and the zones of special operations.
Jamaica's first regulated casino is to be established by the start of 2020. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett made the disclosure on the weekend, but stressed that the country would not be positioned as a casino destination. He was at a recent seminar on hospitality and casino issues held in St. James. Casino gaming is expected to contribute 2% to the country's gross domestic product, as well as provide an addition to the tourism product. Minister Bartlett said 3 casino gaming licenses would be granted, representing no more than 20% of the value of the tourism experience. Construction of a minimum of 1,000 rooms and $1 billion in investment have been outlined as the requirement for a casino license. Approximately $100 million will be spent to develop the Ian Fleming International Airport in St. Mary. Upgraded works include widening the runway, installing turning bulbs along the strip, and an expansion of its terminal building. Renovations have started at the island's 4 domestic aerodromes at Tinson Pen, Ken Jones, Lionel Densham, and Negril to establish pilot lounges, upgrade bathroom facilities, general repainting, and landscaping. These disclosures were made by the Minister of Transport and Mining, Robert Montague, who was speaking at last Thursday's opening ceremony for the 2nd Annual Aviation Seminar.
This government recognizes the importance of civil aviation, and we are determined to bring back general aviation into Jamaica as it was in the glory days. We have moved to make some corrective measures, and the Airports Authority of Jamaica have informed me that they have a program to upgrade our aerodromes across the island.
These renovations are being done by the Airports Authority of Jamaica and should be completed by mid-2019. 20 additional automated border crossing kiosks were installed recently at the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, St. James. The kiosks are expected to further reduce the processing time for airline passengers. The airport now has 66 processing outlets, 30 of which are automated border crossing kiosks and 36 immigration officers. The National Security Ministry's Chief Technical Director, Rowan Richards, says during peak time, between 1,800 and 2,500 passengers are processed per hour at the airport.
The figures show that wait time within the immigration hall has dropped from a minimum of 3 to 4 hours to under 80 minutes during peak times. I am equally pleased to note that the introduction of these additional 20 kiosks will result in a 15 to 20% reduction in wait times in Immigration Hall during peak hours.
The kiosks will automate the processing of incoming passengers at the Montego Bay Airport, where an average of 2 million arrivals occur on an annual basis. And finally, the Youth Advisory Committee of the Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO has received a grant for $15,000 under the organization's participation program. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Olivia Grange made the announcement during a ceremony at which the Universal Service Fund handed over laptops and tablets to the committee. This grant is in addition to UNESCO's recent award of $50,000 to the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation for helping adolescent mothers continue their education. UNESCO's participation program analyzes, evaluates, and facilitates the implementation of national, sub-regional, interregional, and regional projects. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
It's officially 2 weeks before Christmas. Have you been spreading the love this season? Well, this special group of civil servants give love throughout the year. Take a look.
The joy of unwrapping presents, the fellowship of family dinners and get-togethers, the mellow vibes of liming with friends. Feel-good opportunities abound at Christmas. But while most people are off the clock enjoying the festivities, there are others on duty, providing essential services 24/7.
My name is Damon Lewis. I work with JUTC. Since 2001, I have worked every Christmas.
I am Nadine Rowe Fisher. I am a nurse manager at the Kingston Public Hospital. Coming out to work on a Christmas holiday, I have mixed feelings because naturally I want to be home with my family and my loved ones to share the festive season, but the reality is I have to go to work.
It is very important to have fire brigade persons working during the holidays because as they would always say, it's a silly season and crazy unexpected things happen.
Essential service workers like these civil servants are always on call, whether it's a regular workday or the most wonderful time of the year. By necessity, they are required to ensure that crucial services are always available for the people of this country.
To be working on a Christmas holiday, it gives me joy to interact with passengers. It's Christmas and people want to go around with their families or friends to enjoy themselves. Not to say that we don't want to go and enjoy ourselves, but we are providing a service. So it's an important part of our jobs to go out there and deliver what we are supposed to do.
If I'm rostered to work on that day, then we tend to want to enjoy ourselves prior to that day or post December 25th. So just to ensure that we enjoy what is left of the holiday or what is to come of the holiday.
If I have to come to work on a holiday, I kind of tell myself not to plan anything in detail that I'm going to go anywhere that will be occurring at the time when I should be on duty. So it makes it a little bit easier for me.
At the workplace, holidays like Christmas can be hectic for some public servants. Take the police and nurses, for example. Statistics show a spike in road crashes during the festive season, and for nurses, that often means more road crash victims to treat.
You may come, nothing happens, thumbs up for that, but if somebody should really have a problem, you will start to know that they came to the facility and it is closed because everybody went off to have holiday.
These hard-working men and women often have to deal with difficult situations at a time when most people are off enjoying themselves.
There was this child who he went along with his friends to the beach. His parents weren't informed of where he was going. And apparently, according to what was reported to us, he got into some difficulties in the water. And his little friends, they just panicked, they ran. And then they came back and they told an adult what had happened. We actually attempted visitation and it was just sad. He did not pull through.
Corporal Hamilton has a similar story, but with a pleasant outcome.
We were at the station one afternoon when we got a call that there was a house on fire. When we responded and we went to the scene, there was this dwelling house on fire and everybody was just scampering around. So we checked to ascertain as to if everybody was accounted for. They were saying that no, there is a small child that has not been accounted for. And we immediately went into rescue mode. A couple of us went in and we searched the entire building and we found the child on the bed, just huddled up trying to escape the heat, and we grabbed him and we ran out of the building.
This Christmas, as you gather with your family to devour a delicious holiday feast, give a thought to the men and women who are manning police stations, treating patients in hospital, responding to fire calls, and safely transporting passengers to their destinations. Civil servants on duty at Christmas.
Government is working to ensure that citizens are not only gainfully employed, but also have access to support services. See how in this next feature.
Since 2001, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's Labour Market Information System, LMIS, has provided a cost-effective way for employers to source and find suitable employees, as well as for job seekers to find employment. The LMIS has three components: the Labour Market Intelligence, LMI, the Skills Bank, and the Electronic Labour Exchange, ELE. These three components are interwoven to equip job seekers and employers to meet the demand of the labour market. The Labor Market Intelligence Department, LMI, collects labor market information and uses this information to determine trends and factors which influence the market. The department spearheaded the National Labour Market Survey 2017, which was tabled in Parliament by Honourable Minister Shahini Robinson. The survey identified 6 key findings.
1. Less than 1% of the workers in the participating firms were foreigners. 2. 80% of firms found it difficult to fill vacancies in their organizations. 3. Most firms were optimistic about their business prospects. 4. The hotel and restaurant services had the greatest opportunity for growth in the labor market. 5. Demand will be greatest for skilled workers in production and services with 72%. And 6. 10% of the firms employed persons with disabilities.
The survey is beneficial to policymakers, curriculum developers, students, job seekers, and employers who can use the information to assess imbalances in the labor market. Labor market intelligence is also utilized to better position the LMIS to meet the needs of clients. The Electronic Labor Exchange, ELE, is the core component of the LMIS. It's a critical tool for linking job seekers with employers where the in-office services are enhanced by an online portal.
Persons can go and register on or offline. They can create their resume and post their qualifications. And we match those skill sets with jobs that are already posted by employers.
What we do is to do preparatory work in terms of getting individuals ready for the world of work. And these are done through our employability skill sessions. And these are done effectively to allow for the individual person to be ready to go into an organization and display the relevant soft skills that we want in order to have productivity.
It showed me that it doesn't matter what happened in the office or what is going to happen where you go. There's always help and strength there. You should just take the good from it and leave the bad where it is. Without the program, I would have never gotten that training.
Since its launch, the LMIS website has attracted more than 14,000 job seekers and over 1,000 employers, earning their trust and becoming a national employment portal.
We have been partnering with the Ministry of Labour to have interns coming in and joining our team for 3-month periods. What they have been able to do is to come in and to create a steady pipeline for us of talent that we have been able to infuse into the workspace and to be able to fill our entry-level roles. The experience has been a good one for us. We've been able to find talent that we can transition into the organization, and most of them are still with us and doing very well.
I am very grateful for the program. When I left high school, I was in and out of jobs, and thanks to the ELE program, I'm here at the COK Sodality. I've been to 3 departments thus far, and I must say it has been a very good experience.
The LMIS is committed to serving Jamaica's labour force and has been building sustainable partnerships to enrich and increase access to the service.
The latest of which has been through the New Employment Opportunities Project, which the executing body is youth. And what that does is to allow for our individuals who are conducting our employability skill sessions to be trained in global standards as to how to do it. It also facilitates a development of a mobile app that would allow for individuals to be able to access our web portal.
In seeking to cement the public-private partnership, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Jamaica Library Service, with the Manchester Chamber of Commerce, and we intend to do that island-wide.
Through this MOU, job seekers are able to use both facilities to access the services of the ELE portal, effectively allowing the LMIS increased penetration across the island. To improve human capital and labour market outcomes for the poor, the ministry has partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, to develop and implement an on-the-job pilot for 1,500 PATH program beneficiaries.
Through the Electronic Labour Exchange, we are targeting persons from these households between the ages of 17 to 25 for job placement. Now, before we place them in jobs, we want them to be able to function effectively in the labor market. We want them to be able to retain those jobs. And it is through retaining those jobs that we will truly break the intergenerational cycle of poverty.
The LMIS is grooming and empowering Jamaicans to achieve their fullest potential by utilizing labor market information, promoting the services of the ELE, and strengthening labor market opportunities through partnerships. The Labor Market Information System, providing easier access to employment opportunities.
The Prime Minister's flagship youth employment program, HOPE, has been a beacon of, well, hope for many of the nation's young. Here's one of the success stories.
Growing up, I didn't have no parent, nowhere to go. I was just stranded. I started to live in Crossroads because I didn't have nowhere else to go. So what I would do when I'm at Crossroads, I would stay in Mothers by day, and by night I would get a piece of cardboard and sleep at the bus stop beside of Mothers in Crossroads. I will walk and beg, or I will stay in Mothers for the whole day, begging pass-bys or so forth, till I find myself again money now. So I'd always have a phone, so I use that money that I get, buy credit, put on the phone and put on service, data, and find out about all of the ministries and so forth. And I will sit there and call the different ministries, from the Chief of Defense Staff Office to the Minister of Education, the Prime Minister's Office, all of those. So I keep on calling and keep on calling till I call the Prime Minister's Office again, and as secretary, I talk to her till I tell myself, say, I can't take it no more. I start crying. I tell the lady, say, Miss, please just help me. Please, I beg you, help me. And the lady say, young man, I will guarantee you that I will help you. So don't worry yourself. She called me back like an hour after or so forth, and she said to me that I got to a person that I think will most likely help you in your situation, which his name is Mr. Martin Rittman. He is the head coordinator of the HOPE program. An hour after, Mr. Rittman called me, and he introduced himself, and I introduced myself, and I tell him my story all over again. He told me that he can help me out with something to do, a skill and a job or so I can gain some form of income, so I could buy hygiene products and clothes and so forth. So he directed me to the Art and Ripon Road, where he told me to bring all relevant documents like ID, TRN and so forth to that place on Ripon Road, and speak to the secretary and tell her that Martin Rittman, the head coordinator of the HOPE program, sent me here. He told me that I should go to a school that's on South Camp, UWI Open campus. I went for 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, I spent at UWI Open campus at South Camp Road. I then moved on to a government agency for work. I started off processing in the computer all documents that come in. I will be the one who to lodge it in the computer and send it off to the different departments. But now I'm a customer service rep at the moment, because my supervisor told me that my talent is wasted where I'm at right now. I don't do much more than lodge the documents in the system and so forth. So she gave me more hands-on training that would more fit my criteria.
I think it is a good motivator in the sense that, it gives them some purpose of living, coming, doing something, knowing that he's responsible for something that is such a vital aspect of our daily activities. He dresses well, always on time, and he takes pride in whatever, what is assigned to him, meaning he works really hard, and whenever he's not here, they miss him.
This particular day now, I think it's the following week after Martin Rittman helped me out with the O program and so forth. I saw a lady, just a random lady, I was begging and so forth. And the lady see me and she started to talk to me and ask me, why am I here and so forth. So I told her and I spoke with her, and she take me into Mother's, she buy me a patty and a juice. And we were talking, just talking and talking, and then she asked me, do I want to come to stay with her? With a glad face, I accepted and said, yes, I would love to come home with you. When she took me in, it's like, I was very welcome, because just looking, I had a bed to sleep in that used to be a cardboard. I had food to eat that used to be me begging on the street just to make ends meet, just to eat a little patty or something. I had dumpling, she gave me all type of food that I long to eat from a longer while.
You know the reason why I do it? God himself provide for me. That's me can feed myself, feed him, feed my 2 grandchildren then. Helping him is not a problem. Helping somebody when they are in need is the greatest thing for me.
I can put my life like the Titanic, if you ever seen that movie. It's like, when the ship was sinking, there's a lot of persons like, them don't know what to do. Some people just jump off in the water because them can't. But I was there and like, the ship has sink, and it's like I tell myself, say, you know what, I'm not going to make this ship sink with me now. So I decided to just jump off. So when you jump off now, I decide to say, you know what, I'm not give up, I'm not just drown so, I'm not just go down so. So I tell myself, say, you know what, I'm go swim. Till I see a light, and that light was Martin Rittman, who shine a lot of other lights for me to a lot of different islands, a lot of different places.
And that's our show. Be sure to join us again tomorrow around about the same time right here on this station. We're also available online at gis.gov.jm. There's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.